Spiritfarer. Before the Indie Direct, I had not heard of this game before, but it interested me enough to give it a try, even at a fairly high price of $30. The problem with this is that the game is not short. It took me around 30 hours to beat it, or at least get to the credits. That means I had to take time out of other games I was going to play for a review. So sorry guys, I'm not going to do a review on My Baby or The Unicorn Princess. I know that might be a little disappointing, but those were games on my list that I was going to play that week, and I had to get rid of them. But let me say one thing about The Unicorn Princess. It was terrible for the brief amount of time I played it. The world was too large, the controls were really bad, and it was just a slog to play. Now, Spiritfarer, I'm a little mixed on. I love the concept of helping people in the next world by assisting them with their needs. However, the game started to lean a little bit too much on the bad gameplay of Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, where you can only make friends if you make them stuff. It's a bad way to make a title, and overall a bad thing to base a game on. It's a selfish way to portray the characters around you, and it's really apparent in Pocket Camp. However, it's less of an issue in this game, but it is still there. You play as Stella, a new spirit who has been tasked to be the new fairy master of spirits. Kind of like a video game version of the show Dead Like Me, only less depressing. You're given a small boat to ferry, where you're going to need to add buildings in order to help you make things to build more things. You can expand your boat and get new blueprints for the new buildings in time by doing quests and selling the things that you make or find. Now, this is a management game without the stress. The game does not care if you pick something up or if you do something. If you don't feed your sheep, nothing will really happen other than them eating your crops. Speaking of which, why are there sheep in this afterlife way station? Do animals just naturally go to purgatory? It would explain all the fish, beef, and pork you can buy and catch. The people on board your ship will vary from sweet and caring to absolute jerks. When I got to the credits, I still had 2 people left on my boat, and I was happy to leave them as they were the most annoying and terrible. All of the people though would whine for food like their arms and legs were broken. Why is this my responsibility? There is a kitchen. You are lucky to have a place to sleep. How about you pitch in a little? They'll also beg you for individual houses and resource buildings. The resource buildings I get, because they're kind of giving you a, hey, you really should have this so you can make other stuff. But making them their own houses makes no sense. I mean, live in one of the empty houses that I built for somebody else. Why do you need a particular building to your exact specifications? And after you're gone, you would think you could just tear it down. But no, they won't let you. You have to have a pointless building that's really only taking up space. Now, before I get the angry comments, those buildings will let you occasionally start up events if you're in the area. But there's no reason you can't just bring up a prompt instead and let us tear down these useless buildings. The other passengers will give you quests to do, which will eventually have them leaving. It will take some longer than others. It was often really hard to gauge when some of them would leave. One of them had me make a building that they were really complaining for me to do, and then the next day they decided to leave. Why did you have me make the building if you were just gonna leave? The biggest problem with this game is the lack of direction though. Sometimes you won't have any idea what to do. I would say about 5 to 7 hours of playing this was just me wandering around the seas looking for what I needed to do to advance the plot. It was often so vague. Worse yet, some of the quests would say, talk to the person. That's about as much context as they would give you. There are a lot of islands to explore. Am I supposed to remember which island I was supposed to need to talk to that particular guy? Thanks for all the help, quest details. The map is big, but it's unfortunately blocked off into 4 sections. One you start out in, one blocked by ice, there's another one blocked by rocks, and then finally one by fog. Now this game had a really fun art style that really kept me going. Plus I was interested in the lives of most of the people I brought on board. One of them was just delightful, and I was sad to see her go. So I would do as they asked to make them happy, or at least make them content enough to move on to the next part of their life. I do think the game should have had voice acting, at least in the main storyline parts. It would make the characters much more alive in my opinion by hearing their voices. There are so many quality of life changes that I would have made to improve this game. Make it so when we were in the categories for items, we could loop back to the beginning instead of making us scroll all the way back. When we warp around the map, let us see the island's name so we can remember where we needed to go. Oh, here's an even simpler one. The recipe list of things that you could cook should be in some kind of order. Alphabetical would have been nice, or how about by dish type? It feels like it was set up randomly. It makes it incredibly hard to find the dish that you're looking for. And I will say this game is a little buggy. It crashed on me twice, and I fell through the map once. But the game saved quite often. I don't know when. I assume when I switch islands or change the day out. It never really showed when it saved as far as I could tell. None of those crashes really were that big of a deal, but it was annoying when it happened. Spiritfarer was a very pretty game. I loved the cartoon art style. As a management game, it was fine. I do think it went overboard on the items that you had to collect and craft. If they cut about 25% of them, I think they could have tightened up the gameplay a lot. So the main question I have to ask myself, did I enjoy my time with it? And the answer is yes, but I wouldn't replay it. As a person who doesn't like management games, the easygoing way it presented itself was a relief. I could go at my own pace. However, I like to have clear goals, and this title would often not give you those. I picked this up for $29.99. I do think it's about $10 too much. It's an enjoyable game if you like management games, and there's plenty for you to do in this. Plus there's some replayability since you could beat the game without getting all the spirits to the afterlife. And if you like a challenge, you can do just that. However, I would still wait for this to go on sale.